So, number 15, getting started this autumn. I want to look at a really difficult topic, which is how do you make sure that your thresholds, particularly your pass-fail threshold, mean that everybody can do the very basics well, and yet you're still stretching the whole class and allowing those who've done really well to demonstrate how well they've done. One of the challenges is that at pass level, it's all about working out whether people can do stuff safely and competently, and you might call that the vocational extreme. And then at the other end, what you're looking at is whether they have a completely different set of skills, which is about bringing different ideas together and melding them into something that's new. So at pass level, as I've said before, you're really testing a student's knowledge and their ability at the basic level. You want to know, will they be a danger to themselves if I pass them or to other people? You don't want your students to go to jail because they don't know or can't practice the basics. At the other end, you're trying to test a much more refined and sophisticated set of tools, which is to do with synthesizing and processing knowledge, and you'd like to know whether any of your students are in the running for a Nobel Prize. I don't think the tension between stretch potential and getting thresholds set is just an academic problem or a teaching and learning problem. Many businesses have got certain requirements that they have to meet, yes, no, and they've got areas where they need to excel and keep on excelling. And the balanced scorecards, I think, is a way of trying to deal with that. I'm not aware of anybody who's really dealing with this tension particularly well. And certainly, if you focus entirely on thresholds, for reasons that we'll see in a minute, that creates one set of problems. And so thresholds and stretch are in competition with one another. To my mind, grade inflation is an inevitable outcome of some of the results of the way we're doing things at the moment. And that's one reason why I want to step back and look at what's been happening in the past, not to emulate the past, but to try and understand how we can reinterpret some of their ideas in a present guise. I used to go to universities as an external examiner, and I'd say, look, there's not very much difference between the worst and the best of these marks, and everybody seems to be passing this assessment. And they'd say, well, that's because we have very good students. And I'd say, well, how do you know you've got very good students? And they would say, because they do very well on the exams we set them. And that's one reason why I want to look back before looking around. So just before we look back, let's review things. First of all, there is an earlier part of this, part 4, where we've looked at stretching assessments, and if you're interested, go back and take a look at some of the ideas that I put there on grading. But basically, if you focus entirely on threshold, then you'll make it boring and you'll create an acute fear of failure. On the other hand, if you focus entirely on the stretching stuff, you're going to leave a lot of students behind and they will have gaps in their experience profile. In the past, people did it by streaming, or they started to do it by streaming. And they were very robust about it. There was an A stream and a B stream when I went to university. The B stream took longer to do stuff. They were allowed fewer options, and they were not allowed to get a first, but they could get up to a 2-1, and I had colleagues that actually achieved at that level. The people who did the A stream were stretched more. They could take more modules. And so that created a problem in awarding degrees, because at the lower end, you wanted to reward consistency, and so you wanted students to be awarded essentially the average mark of everything they did. At the top end, where students were doing markedly more stuff than others, you wanted to award the total scores that they got. And so being a physics department, they drew a line and they said at this end of the line, it will be entirely on the left-hand side to do with the average. At the right-hand side, it'll be entirely to do with the total, and we will simply scale linearly along that. And because they were physicists, they knew how to do that. So how do we bring this into our present world? Well, first of all, I'd suggest that you are much more clear in your own mind about which parts of your module are threshold and which parts have got stretch potential. If students have to make a certain number of your lectures in order to get through, then make that a threshold requirement. Don't give them 5% for attendance that you add on to their final score. If it's threshold, make it threshold. If they pass, they pass. If they don't, they fail. And the same with stretch material. Don't try and squeeze that into a pass-fail assessment. So how do we pull all that together? Well, first of all, ensure that your pass-fail assessments cover all of the threshold material. Secondly, set stretching assessments for higher grades. And thirdly, what you may consider doing is, once students have passed the basics, allowing them to sit exams that bring together several modules and present a composite picture, maybe 3 exams instead of 1 per module at the end of the degree. So I'm around. Here are some of my coordinates. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel. and get in touch if I can help.